In this video, we're going to take a look at how the sources of religious power have changed over time. We'll be looking at three time periods: the pre-modern time period, or traditional religion, tribal religion. Then we're looking at the modern time period, the Enlightenment, or the classic religion during this time period. And then also what we're moving into, or what we have already started to move into, which is postmodern time period, or the neo-religion. Let's take a look at the pre-modern time period. The pre-modern time period was an oral culture, and information was passed on by word of mouth. This was also true in the religious communities, as the medium played the primary religious source of information in these religious communities. Next was the traditions or the rituals in which people participated in these and acted these out, these dramas, these rituals in which people engaged in, these ceremonies, religious ceremonies that you participated. So it was very participatory during this time period. In part also because texts and literacy wasn't very widespread during this time period. So texts and scripture didn't play a large role in religion during this pre-modern time period. Of course, there was exceptions here and there. So let's take a look at the modern time period. The modern time period, right, the Enlightenment came, scientific revolution came, scientific thinking came, but also, right, the ability to communicate more through words in written form. So the primary source of information during the classic period of religion was the text or the scripture. Think about this in monotheism, particularly with the Bible and the Quran, but also in Hinduism. There's some very key religious texts. And so therefore, the religious source of information became the written word as opposed to the spoken word in classic religion. This was followed maybe in the East by mediums and then traditions and rituals, and then maybe in monotheism followed by traditions, rituals, and then mediums. But here the key point is that text and scripture were the primary source of religious information during this written time period. Now what we're moving into now, and started to already have moved into some, and will continue to move into the postmodern time period, or neo-religion. Here we're going to see a visual culture, an experiential culture. People want to experience things for themselves, and therefore these traditions, these rituals will move and have started to move up into the primary source of information, is this embodied cognition, this ability to experience it in your body to know that it's true. And this is followed by mediums, but these mediums will be dispersed. There won't be one primary medium source. We'll be able to look at mediums all across the globe, pick and choose what we want for mediums through technology. And then also the same will be true for our text and our scriptures. There won't be a primary scriptural source. We'll piecemeal this, find out what we are believing, what we like, what's helping us, and then piecemeal those canons and have individualized canons as opposed to one specific canon. These will be personalized or individual canons for text and scripture. So turning to the decision model, you can see where that primary source of religious power is going to enter into across the different time periods. We can also revisit these different time periods and take a look at religion across, maybe not so much with religious information, but also just how religion has changed across time. In the pre-modern time frame, right, we were a very geo-specific group. Right? We were tribes. Tribal religion excelled during this time period. It was geo-local, and it was also holistic and encompassed the entire body, the entire way of life. So religion encompassed the entire way of life. Communities were focused around their religious power and their religious source and their religious system. In the modern time period, right, religions became widespread, or the big five religions, the primary religions or classical religions became widespread. They were global, they were absolute in their truth, as well as they were universal. In the postmodern period, right, religions are going to become more socio-local. They'll be connected by social groups as opposed to geo-specific groups in the pre-modern time period. And also, right, religions saw from the religious tree that they're going to continue to divide, continue to become more specific for those socio-local groups. It'll be very personal. Religion will be personal and also dynamic. So truth will change. Truth will be very dynamic in this as opposed to absolute during the classical period. We can also take another look across time periods. Religion in the pre-modern time period was very physical. There was physical sacrifices to be made, sacrificing physical animals. And the way, and maybe think about from a monotheistic religion, the people obeyed God. They obeyed the gods, they obeyed God in this case. And that's what their primary relationship with God, or the way they experienced with God, was through that obedience. In the classical period of religion, or the modern time frame, right, those sacrifices became more metaphorical. We didn't sacrifice animal hearts, we sacrificed our own heart, right? We give our hearts to God or to the gods. We dedicate ourselves, right, to our religious systems. And the primary way in which we experience God, because it was a written time period, we also knew God, or we knew the gods. And therefore we experience God primarily with our mind and with our intellect. Moving into the postmodern time period, right, religion is going to be more sensational. I don't mean wow and big. I mean sensory. It's going to be experienced again in the body. It's going to be experienced with our senses as opposed to in our mind. Touch, feel, sight. Right, those are going to be important in religion in terms of the way we experience our religion. And the way we interact with God is going to be through feelings. We're going to feel God as opposed to know God. So we're not going to know truth, we're going to feel truth in the postmodern time period, or the period of neo-religion. A famous scholar, John Caputo, looked at this and had a metaphorical way of examining the three periods that we're examining here, or close to the three periods that we're examining here. In the pre-modern time period, religion was really real. It was literal, right? It was really real. In the modern time frame, right, with the scientific revolution, it became unreal. In the postmodern time frame, right, religion becomes hyper-real. And the idea here is that the mind cannot tell if it is real or if it is not real. So the mind is just unable to determine this. And you can take a look at some hyper-realism in the art world and get a sense of what he was looking at with hyper-realism. So kind of this is John Caputo's way of examining religion over time. We can kind of use our own metaphorical ways of examining religion over time. So what about this? Religion in the pre-modern time frame, right, was the stained glass. Right? It was very grandiose, took up the entire aspect of the room. Right? You looked up to it. Religion in modern time frame, right, became clear glass. You could kind of see through some of those non-factuals. And maybe in the postmodern time frame, right, religion becomes frosted glass. And by here, the same idea with Caputo. Is it frosted glass that I've sprayed on myself, or is it frosted glass that happens naturally when it gets cold outside and Jack Frost comes to visit the glass? So here we're looking at, again, I can't tell if it's real or if it's man-made. And that's the idea of the postmodern religion. Let's take another swipe at a metaphor here and looking at the difference between them. In the pre-modern time frame, religion was a candlelight. In modern time frame, it was an LED bright white light, right? An electric light, very bright. It accomplished its purpose, right? Candlelight was very dim, but also very romantic, right? Where the LED light was very bright, but also very harsh. Maybe in the postmodern time frame, religion becomes a flickering candle bulb, right? And I put it into maybe a container, and I can't tell if that candle is a real candle or if that candle is an electric candle. And so that's the idea of religion in the postmodern world. So let's take a couple more swipes at understanding religion across these time frames with a couple more metaphors. What if religion was a holiday? In the pre-modern time frame, religion was Christmas. It was grandiose. It was magical. It was supernatural, right? Larger than life. In the modern time frame, right, religion was maybe Independence Day. It's something that the scientific thinking defeated. We became free from our constraints, free from the bondage of unknowing. Therefore, we knew things as a human species, and we found our independence. In the postmodern time frame, right, religion may be something like Mardi Gras. And I don't mean the drinking, but I mean more of the experience, and more so even like the Carnival of Venice, in which you choose to put the masks on. You choose to imbibe yourself into the experience, and as you choose to do so, it becomes real as you put the masks on. It becomes real because you choose it to be real. We can also take a look maybe from a student perspective in different types of exams. Religion in the pre-modern time frame was a fill-in-the-blank. We had lots of blanks in the pre-modern time frame, and so therefore, just to understand the world around us, we came up with a system to explain all that was left blank, all the fill-in-the-blanks here. And so religion was a very large role in the society back then because there was a lot of unknown. In the modern time frame, right, religion became a true-false answer. And by true, we mean objectively true. And religion was put under the microscope, almost literally, to determine whether it was scientifically or objectively true or false. And that's the way we kind of dealt with religion here in the modern time frame. In the postmodern time frame, right, religion becomes an open-ended question. Right? There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. It becomes something that is free to go ahead and answer the way that you desire to answer it. We're not going to constrain it to objectivism and facts. We're going to allow it to be open-ended and free in terms of how we're looking at and experiencing religion. So these are the different ways in which we can go ahead and take a look at religion across 3 time frames. In the next video, we're going to take a look at how religion can turn bad, or how religion, all right, is supposed to turn us to acts of love and altruism, but because religion is a system of information, it can go ahead and lead to imperfect information, which can lead to acts of self-destruction and hatred. So we'll take a look at how religion can fail and fall down into acts of self-destruction and hatred.